Is the executive director of the Council on American Islamic Relations in Oklahoma. His name is Muneer Awad. He filed CAIR's lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of Oklahoma's bizarre sharia law constitutional amendment. Mr. Awad, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell me what the climate has been like in Oklahoma for you surrounding this whole anti-sharia law constitutional amendment?
Well, initially it's been somewhat intense, as you could imagine, bringing about the lawsuit again in defense of the Constitution and in defense of Muslim citizens of Oklahoma. We've been challenged by a lot of the supporters who supported this amendment ever since it was mentioned as a state ballot. But recently, since the lawsuit, since the judge made an order to stay the certification, we have seen an outpour of Oklahomans who have come to our support, who have mentioned the need for rationale and understanding of the violation of our First Amendment rights. And they've spoken out with us, and they said it's unfortunate that we've allowed politicians to basically rewrite our Constitution solely for political gain. And they're supporting us with our cause, and hopefully it'll be a successful one.
I know that the basis of your lawsuit is a claim that it violates your freedom of religion, it violates your First Amendment rights. Why do you think that this passed so overwhelmingly? It passed with 70% of the vote. Right.
Well, I mean, this was a well-planned and well-funded campaign of misinformation. We basically had politicians stump-speeching, telling Oklahomans to fear the looming threat of Islam, that Islam was coming to take over our courts if we didn't act immediately. Unfortunately, it resonated with a lot of voters who don't know much about Islam, who've never met a Muslim, who know nothing other than what these politicians were telling them. And if we know, I mean, we already have an amendment that makes sure Sharia law will never take over our courts. It also makes sure no religious law will take over our courts, and it's called the First Amendment. If we know that it's impossible for a foreign law or a religious law to ever conflict with and replace the laws of our courts, we need to ask these politicians, why were you deliberately misinforming Oklahomans into voting for this?
If you think that the overwhelming vote for this was born of ignorance, and I have to tell you, I share your belief that it was, do you think it would have made a difference to have prominent voices, particularly on the right, speaking out about religious freedom and respect for Muslims and respect for Islam and what the meaning of the First Amendment is? Would it have made a difference to have people essentially trying to tamp down the ignorance in this case?
Absolutely. I think so, absolutely. I mean, if we had people that come from the same side of where these political campaigns came, that were telling Oklahomans to fear Muslims, to be afraid of Muslims, to disrespect Muslims, if we would have had voices out of that side come out and say, no, this is wrong, there's nothing to fear about Muslims. Muslims are our neighbors. They've lived here just as long as we have. They are engaged and active members in our community. Had we had voices from the side of the political campaigns that were pushing this say that, I think it would have could have cut the edge off of the violent rhetoric and the hate rhetoric that has come out. But of course, if you have voices that say we shouldn't be hateful, we shouldn't be violent, we shouldn't be fearful, that would undermine a campaign that's based on hate, violence, and fear. So that's obviously why no one from the political campaigns on that side came out with those sentiments.
Muneer Awad, the Oklahoma Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations, bearing a lot of grief and getting a lot of abuse right now for his position there and for having launched this lawsuit defending religious freedom. Thanks for your work. Thanks for being here, and good luck to you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks.